Hello everybody, and this is Manny from Manny's Makings, and today I have a simpler, sort of more beginning tutorial for wire weaving and making a wire woven piece. So this is an earring. We're going to work on the other half of this earring today. So it's, as you can see, it's beaded. It's, let's see, this will come into focus for you. There you go. So it's got beads on it. Your choice of beads could be anything. And I'm going to show you some examples before we get started today. So this is a silver pair that I made. And this pair is using Swarovski, I think it's 4mm purple pearls. And some specialty beads. They're called, they're from Potomac Bead Company. They're disc duos, so I use them, and it kind of makes you this modern purple and silver pair of earrings, and you can pattern it any way you like. This is just the way that I liked. And here's another simpler pair that sort of, I'm thinking of these with a nice colorful sweater and some blue jeans, and it would be awesome. So this is with some 3mm stones that are dyed. So they're just, you know, basic stones. So you could do this with gems, with crystals, with anything you like. So you can make it as fancy and as polished as you like. This one has more of a sort of a native southwestern look. Hangs beautifully on the ear. So let's get started. We'll talk about materials that are needed today. So in this case, I'm using different tools. So I have my round nose pliers, I have my bent nose pliers, I have my wire cutters, or, you know, flush cutters, I have my chain nose pliers, and my wire straighteners. I have 18 gauge wire for the main body, and for wire weaving I have some 26 gauge wire. Now you can use any color you like, that's your choice. And I have a couple of different, this is a seed bead 6-0 mix. This is, both of them are 6-0s. As I said, you could do them with anything you'd like. And these are Czech seed beads, glass seed beads. So I use Czech seed beads or stones or pearls, that kind of thing. That's what I like. So you're going to need to start with a 10-inch piece of wire. Pretty simply. You know, straighten your wire, cut it to 10 inches, and then we're going to go from there. So let's move some of this stuff out of the way a little bit so I don't have anything banging into the wire and the wire weaving I'm going to do. So I straightened my wire. I have a 10-inch piece. And now I'm just going to grab my ruler, and I've got my ruler here, and I'm going to sort of see where the 5-inch mark is, and I'm going to put my thumb there. Okay. And I'm going to take my pliers. Now, the width of the bead is important here, so let me just put that down. So your bead width is only that wide, right? So when I look at my pliers and I'm trying to figure out my bead width, I could stay fairly high up on the pliers and be the same width as my bead. You don't want it much wider than your bead. If you look here, I use sort of more the tip of my pliers to, you know, gauge the width here. If you're using a wide bead, like in this case, it's much wider. If you look when my pliers go over the bead, it takes, I have to go farther down on my pliers to cover the width of the bead so that when I'm make enough width here, and that's what we're trying to do at this point. So let's get the 5-inch mark again. So it has to be approximately in the center, it doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm just going to take my wire, and I'm going to take it and I'm going to bend it against my pliers, and I'm pushing pretty hard here because I want to make a fairly decent sort of straighter piece here. And if you need to tweak it a little bit to make sure that it's good and straight, you're more than welcome to do that. Okay. So you end up with a piece like this. And that's what you're going to wire weave on, which makes it really simple. And now you're going to need about a 24-inch piece of your weaving wire. You can probably get away with about 20, but 24 is always good, so I'm just pulling that off right now. And that's more than enough for one earring. So I'm going to take my wire flush cutters, and I'm just going to cut my wire off. Whoop. Okay, So I have my weaving wire, and I'm going to start my weaving process. So first of all, you have to anchor this, and I'm trying to keep these wires sort of parallel to each other, but the same width apart. I can see that this is a little kinked. See how it's a little kink there? So I'm going to just straighten that out before I get started. I don't want to have that weird little kink in there. It's a little bit better. Okay, so you have to attach your wire, and the idea is to attach your wire so that it ends up, the main wire ends up going towards the bottom where the hole is here in your wire. Okay, so you go around, just wrap it around, and I'm just taking this little tail end and tucking it around. And you're going to see, I'm going to come in closer here. Let me just zoom in a bit. Whoops, sorry about the jiggly on the camera, but that's the only way I can get it to zoom in. So it's kind of messy, and I'm not worried about it because I'm going to push this together. So, and you can use your pliers if you need to, but you need at least 3 wraps. And I'm going to hold the tail and hold this part and push them together. And look at that. You got a much better looking wire wrap. I'm going to go around one more time. And I'm going to wait to cut the tail piece off till later because it gives me something to hold on to. So I'm going to bring my wire up between the 2 wires because I want it to be in the middle. And then I'm going to put my first bead on. And I do have a pattern with this. With this here, I started with a dark bead, and then I went to the turquoise bead, and then 4 dark beads. So I'm going to do the same thing. So I'm going to pick a dark bead, and I'm going to put it on my, I'm just putting the bead on my thing. You can't probably see it. There we go. So I have my bead down. And then I'm going to take my wire over the top of this wire, of my base wires, and I'm going to wrap around with my wire, and I'm going to push in tight. Now this first one's the hardest because you're sort of setting up the premise. So I pushed around once, and I'm going to go around again, 2, and I'm just laying my wire beside the other wire that's already there, 3, and that makes, if you look, that's 4 little wraps around that wire. See, there's 4 wraps, ends up being 4 wraps. And I'm bringing it back up to the center. Now I'm going to grab my next bead, which we know is the lighter bead. So I'm picking up my bead just off the screen here, and I'm going to let it slide down on the wire. And I'm going to turn my wire, my piece like this so that I'm holding it upright so I can hold on to that bead. I'm going to bring my wire up in between the middle and bring it down, and then I'm going to pull and make that first loop. So see how it sets it beside it? And then I'm going to do 2, 3. So right now I have, if you look, I have 3 wraps, and when I bring this around, that makes it 4 there. So there's 4 up here and 4 down here. Pretty cool, huh? So I go back up to the middle again, and then I grab my next bead. So let's do this from a little farther out, so I'm not so tight up. There we go. So you can sort of see the whole motion a little bit better. So I pick up my next bead, which has got to be a dark bead in this case. And I thought this would be fun. If you like really long earrings, you could actually use needle and thread and actually bead dangles on this. It would be really awesome. So I'm going over the top, and I'm bending my wire down so that it sort of sets it where the distance is going to be. And I'm bringing it up in the middle, and I'm pulling it up and over. And I'm bringing it down and putting it in the middle and bringing it up and over. And that's all I'm doing. So that's 3, and that gives me my 4 wraps, and I'm bringing up in the middle for the next bead. Now I want you to see something. See how those are not tight together? All you need to do is take your pliers and squish it like that, and they're perfect again. Okay, so pretty easy, and we go on to the next bead. I'll show you one more bead, and then we'll come back when we've got all the beads on. So this is another dark bead. So I'm picking up the dark bead on the wire, And you could use any color wire. You know, I would definitely suggest you use dead soft wire for your weaving wire because it makes it much easier. So that's 2, 3, and I'm bringing it back up the middle. So that's back up the middle. So we have 4, 4, 4, 4. And you just push things down so, you know, they lay flat, but they're up to the top. Okay? So I'm going to continue with the pattern I have on the other earring. So just in case you don't know, in this particular earring I have dark bead, a turquoise bead, they're metal tone beads. So I have 4 more metal tone beads, a turquoise bead, a metal tone bead, and then I have 6 turquoise beads, a metal bead, a turquoise bead, 4 metal tone beads, a turquoise bead, and a metal tone bead. And when we get to this point, I'm going to come back. Okay, I'm back, and as you can see, I've put in all the beads in the pattern that I needed to, same as the other earring. And my weaving wire has gone 4 times around this last one, and I have it sticking up the middle. Okay, now when you go to bend this, what's going to happen is you're going to get the beads in the wire are going to move on this wire, and you can see one end's just a little bit longer than the other end. So I'm going to make that my outside, because my outside's wider than my inside, and as I move this, as I curve it around, it's going to slide down this wire and make this wire shorter. So this is the point when I can get rid of my little piece of wire here. So I'm getting rid of that piece of wire and make sure it's tucked in. I'm just tucking it in. There we go. So I'm going to hold into my fingers and very gently. Now you could use, this is just a tube that holds crazy glue. You could use a tube. It's really hard to do though because it's double wide, and you could start the bend slowly, or you could just, you don't want to bend it and make a crook unless that's the, you want to make it. So I'm using my finger and I'm pushing as I'm pushing upwards at the same time, and I'm wanting the beads to move along, whoops, the wire a little bit as I go, and you'll feel it. You'll feel these wires on the inside come in towards each other, and these wires on the outside move out to farther away from each other as you go. And as you can see, this wire is already shorter now than this wire. So it does take up some wires. That's why you had to start with 10 inches. And I'm just curving it and curving it. I don't want any big kinks in this. I want to sort of make it look the same as the other one. And I'm, you know, putting my thumb or my finger, whatever I can push against, and I'm moving both wires at the same time. Now that I sort of got the bend. Now the hardest part on this to curve in is this sort of end piece here. So I just take my finger and my thumb like this and I push, but you could take some flat nose pliers, very, very carefully and gently, and tweak it in. Tweak it in like that. So I'm tweaking it in so that it curves in more. Okay, so I'm going to continue to do that. I'm bringing it in, bringing it in. I'm going to take my other earring because I want to compare, and I want to bring it in the same amount. So I'm holding one over the other. You like these to be close. They don't have to be perfect, but they can be close. Okay, so I'm getting there. And this is more of a teardrop shape than it is a round shape, where the silver ones are more, these are more rounded. See how this is more rounded? So, you know, depends on what shape you want. This is to give you tools to explore your creativeness, and so I'm trying to bring this together so that they touch. That was the whole idea. Make sure your beads are sort of still pushed down for now. Okay, so we're pretty close, and I'm happy where we're at the moment. So I'm going to move this beading wire just off to the side a little bit, and I have to bend this wire over top of this taller wire now. So this short wire was the longest one, it's now the shortest. So you can use whatever pliers you want that you can get in close, and I'm pushing right against the bead as tight as I can, and then I'm going to take my wire and I'm going to just bend it. This takes holding on, and I'm going to bend it at a right angle as best I can so that I'm trying to match this angle here. Okay. So you can see I have this sort of angle. I'm going to sharpen up the angle. I'm going to stick my pliers in, and I'm sharpening up the angle a little bit so it's a little bit sharper and a little bit closer to what I'm looking for. Okay, so now we're going to flip this around, and I already sort of tucked this wire in as part of the process, so it's on the back side here. Move the weaving wire out of the way. Tuck this in, and now we're going to do my fold over wrap. So there's a couple ways you could do this. The easiest way is to sort of try to hold on to the space. You don't want this wire, when you wrap it over the longer wire, you don't want this to pull in and make this like super tiny. You want it to stay the same width it is now, which is, if you check with your plier, the pliers you started with was the width you originally started with. Now you could put those in, that'll work too, so let's do it that way. I'm putting that in, and I'm taking this little piece of wire, and I want to bend it at a 90 degrees to the other piece of wire. And this takes a little bit of finagling, okay? So I'm bending it at 90 degrees. Check to make sure the spacing's okay. Could be a little tighter, so let's pull that in a little tighter. So I'm pushing with my thumb against it to make it more of a 90-degree bend, so it bends, you know, more up towards it. So now I'm going to bend it over the back of this wire so that they're parallel with each other, or close to being parallel with each other. So this is what I have. I have the wire bent over, I have this end that's already closed, and I'm going to take my wire nippers, and I'm going to take it, and I'm going to cut it. Let's see if I can show you at a good angle. I want to cut it, leaving myself enough that when I push down it's going to hit this other wire, but not so much it's going to go past it. So I'm going to stick my wire cutters in about there, so it looks like it would make a loop if I was finishing it. Okay, and I'm going to nip this off. Okay, so that's so far all the wasting wire we have. It's really cool. These earrings are so cool. And then I'm just going to tuck that end in. I'm pushing against both sides, and it does that. It tweaks to the one side or the other. So you just get your pliers in and make them level with each other. Check to see that it's tucked in there. Now mine's not tucked in enough. So when you're trying to tuck a wire in, let's see if I can get this so you can see it better. When you're trying to tuck a wire in, I don't know if you can see, there's the tip of the wire's there. If I take my pliers there and on the back side of the loop rather than this way, and I take it this way, I can force it under a little bit easier. I just got to go slow. And see how it pushed that tip down? So that tip's no longer in the way, and it's good. Now just double checking that they're all parallel with each other. The idea is that from the front, I don't want to see the back side of that loop. Now you can see there's a space on this side and not on the other side, so just take your beads and wiggle them around, spread them out a little bit so that they're even on both sides. There we go. It's close enough. Okay, so we want to bring these two corners together. We want to double check that we're matching or close to matching our other earring. So I need to bring this one in a bit here and bring that out. I'm holding them together, and I can see where they're different, right? So you can see that this bottom is not curved as much here, and it's curved more here. So I'm tweaking them to try to make them the same. Okay. And I'm pretty happy with that. That's close enough that if you can see the difference on my ears, then you better be my husband, or you better know me really, 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 really well. Because, yeah. Alright. So now I'm going to take this little scrap of weaving wire that's left. I have, like, I don't know, 4 inches, maybe. And it's coming out of the outside of this wire. And I'm going to take it and I'm going to tuck it in beside the bead on this wire. And I'm going to pull it across. I'm pulling it across, and I'm pulling. The idea is I want to make these two corners match each other. I want them to come together. And then I'm going to bring it back up again. And I'm watching that I go below where I bent that wire on the back, and I'm keeping them together. See, if I did this, it would be above the wire I bent in the back. So I want to go below that, but beside the other wire. Okay, so that keeps it neat. And I'm going to go back over again, back in through that hole. So I have 2 wraps at the joining point where they're together. Then I'm going to take this wire, I'm just going to pull this up a little bit straighter, and I'm going to go around this wire 3 times. 1, 2, and I'm just pushing down with my finger, pushing down with my finger so it goes down. And I'm going to cut off the weaving wire because I'm done with it. And then I'm going to make sure it's tucked in. I'm doing this by feel because I cannot see. Okay. So I want to show you the top of this. Whoop. Why is it being silly? There we go. Okay, so the top of this, if you look, comes up, and then I just make, this is, you know, 18 gauge wire. I don't have to make a wrap loop. You could make a wrap loop if you wanted, but I didn't need to, so I'm not going to. So if you can see, I brought it up and then made the loop. So I'm going to just take this and bring this up, and if you look at this, you can do this with your pliers to give you gauges. If I look at the distance of where I put my, that I could put my pliers in, it's basically the distance of the width of these tips of these pliers. So I'm putting that in there, and then I'm going to bend this back just a slight bit because I'm going to do my loop. Okay. Now the first loop's always easy because you don't have to worry about it being the same as the second loop. Second loop's much harder because it has to be the same. So again, I'm going to take my pliers and I'm going to put them in here and look, oh, look how big I made that. Okay, so I have to go down that far on my pliers, so I'm going down quite a distance on my pliers. And we're going to just do a basic loop around the pliers. Okay, and I'm going to bring it all the way around. Now, I know already, if I look at this, that that one is taller, this one here that I'm making is taller than this one. So I have to tweak it down, right? So I'm going to put my pliers back in, and I'm going to turn and then pull this down. And turn and pull. It's not pulled tight here around this plier, so let's pull it tight. Turn and pull this loop. So I want to get it the same, so I'm going to keep checking. It's getting really close to the same. A little bit, tiny bit more, I'm going to pull. Pull and pull this tight around there. So that's pretty close. I think we're going to be pretty well the same. Yep. So when I look at them, they're pretty well the same height. I don't want one earring hanging over the other earring. So this is where it gets fun. So I have the wires to the back here, and it's overlapping this other wire. And all I'm going to do is take my pliers with my flush cutters with the flush side in, and I'm going to hold it right just so the very tip of it is on the inside of that hole right against the other wire. And I'm going to snip it off. See what it does? It leaves a perfect little loop. Now I can take my round nose pliers and tweak that in so it's closed. Now this has gotten off center a bit, so I'm going to tweak it back to center it a little bit more. Let's see how this one is. Okay, pretty close. So now all I have to do is add my ear findings. So I just open this ear finding, and these ones are weird, so I never know which side to open. Okay, open the ear finding, make sure that the right side is going, this is the right side of my ear finding is up, because of the loop of it here is here. And this opening is here, so when I put this on, I have to put this on so that the, where's my wrap loop? Helps if I could see. Okay, so this is the back side. This is the back side of my earrings because the wrap loop is on this side. So I need to put it on so that the front side and the front side, this is the front side of my earring, all match. Okay, and then we're going to just take this and tweak it back. Make sure, and it broke. That's happened sometimes. I was playing with this one, so let's get another earring finding. And I will be right back. I gotta grab it. Okay, so we have another earring finding. And we're going to open it. And again, we're going to find the wrong side. This is the wrong side, so I'm going to put it on so the right side fits. And then we're going to close this loop. There we go. So we now have a pair of earrings that sort of look south. See if I can get them in my hand so that you can see them nicely. Maybe. There we go. So we have a pair of earrings that sort of have the Southwest style that were easy to make, and again, you can use any beads you like. It's just so much fun. You can use any wire you like. I wouldn't go lower than a 20 gauge wire on the sides if you want the stability. You can use thinner weaving wire for sure if you'd like. You could use seed beads like size 11 or 15s and do a little pattern in here like you saw me do with the Southwest earrings. This just gives you a basic shape, but you could also make this more triangular if you wanted. You know, doing corners. Now you have to do the corners before you bead it. So have fun with this. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you do, please like, share, and subscribe. And all the list of materials are down below, and I'll list the materials for the other two sets. So again, this is another set that I made. Let's back out a little bit here. Whoop, wrong way. Okay, so we have these ones, we have these ones, we have lots of different earrings, lots of fun, definitely sellable, lots of fun to make. So keep on making from Manny's Makings, and take care.